Well, good evening, everybody. Before actually we begin, can you turn to the person either side of you, front and back, and just say g'day? That's what it's all about, a bit of energy in the room tonight. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Martin Rogers, and I'm fortunate to be the CEO of Realise Business. And I often like to say, and you'll hear me say it, that I don't think we are business people. I actually don't necessarily like that term. The term I prefer is we're people in business, because the person behind the business, i.e. each and every one of you, are just as important as the business itself. I'd like to just begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet this evening, and I'd like to also pay respects to our elders past and present. Well, everyone here at Realise Business, we're thrilled to have you here to celebrate the incredible journey of being in business. Running a small business and at the moment is challenging, in long hours, tough decisions, and the constant need and drive to innovate. But it's also deeply rewarding, offering unique opportunities to create, inspire, and impact our communities that we work in. Tonight isn't possible without the support of the New South Wales Government, the Service New South Wales Business Bureau, and the Business Connect program for their valuable support in making tonight's event possible. Their unwavering commitment to empowering small business is truly commendable, and a number of you have been the recipients of the generosity of the government through the number of programs that they offer. Tonight we're honoured and soon to hear from Kristina Karlson, the brilliant founder of Kiki K and Dream Life, who will shortly be interviewed by one of our wonderful advisors who you may have heard before, Therese Tarlinton, as the author of that wonderful book called Swap. But Kristina's story of perseverance, creativity and passion from humble beginnings to international success is sure to inspire and motivate us all. At Realise Business, we are dedicated to supporting small businesses on your journey. Let's embrace this opportunity tonight to connect with fellow entrepreneurs, share experiences, and gain some valuable insights. Together, we can overcome obstacles and achieve great success. Here's to an evening filled with inspiration, learning, and new opportunities. What I'd like to do now is invite Dr. Marjorie O'Neill, MP, Member for Coogee, Parliamentary Secretary for Transport, to say a few words and to welcome you all. Let's make Marjorie feel welcome.
Martin, thank you very much for your very warm introduction. And I would like to say I'm not a politician. I don't like to refer to myself as a politician. I like to refer to myself as a problem solver. So hopefully that fits here. Now, I do know that Minister Camper would have loved to have been here this evening, but as someone who comes from a family of small business owners as well, I know how difficult and the challenges and the ups and the downs it can be in running a small business, and really firsthand what it takes to be a small business owner. Let me start by saying as well how much I'm looking forward to Kristina's talk and hearing about your journey of inspiration. I think one of the best things about being a member of Parliament is getting to meet really inspirational business owners that are out there doing pretty phenomenal, amazing stuff. Sometimes I have to pinch myself at this. I also get to meet up-and-coming business leaders who are working hard to pursue their dreams. That's a pretty amazing part of the job. And from my experience, all entrepreneurs have a couple of traits in common. First is a passion for what they do. The second is a clear vision of what the business can become. And the third is a sense of pride in their independence and the ability to go it alone, often against odds. However, as everyone who's been successful in business will tell you, there are times when you need assistance. And like all journeys in life, you know your destination, but you still might need to stop and ask for directions along the way. And that is where the New South Wales Government wants to help. We understand that building from scratch sometimes is a challenge, but it doesn't always have to be that way. And that is why we are implementing new policies to support small businesses and to encourage entrepreneurship. Now, one of the first major election commitments we delivered was the creation of the Service New South Wales Business Bureau. And the Bureau is all about improving the way small business interacts with government. And for those of you who don't know, let me just explain a little bit about how it works. You'll all be familiar with the Service New South Wales model, where people can access important government services all in one place. And the Service New South Wales Business Bureau takes this model and adapts it to the needs of small businesses. So no matter the stage of your business journey, the Bureau connects businesses with free, personalised support. And the Bureau is here to help small businesses in a couple of key ways. Number one, navigate regulations. Two, access support to grow your business, access government contracts and overseas markets, and to tackle unproductive red tape, which is something we're very passionate about doing. Also, the most recent commitment we've delivered on is a charter for small business, and it provides a clear and strong focus point to support small businesses at each stage of your development. And it will deliver stronger engagement on new policies and regulation, ensuring all New South Wales government departments listen and respond to the issues that you raise. It also will boost the government's procurement from small businesses. Now, the Small Business Charter is now in effect, ensuring that regulation and red tape is reduced. Where necessary, financial support is available to ease the costs of doing business. The government provides faster payments to small business suppliers, and that small business is connected to export opportunities. This really is a game changer, and in how we support people just like all of you in this room today, so that you can support our wider community. Now, in December, we issued a direction to all New South Wales agencies to lift the small business procurement threshold from 150,000 to 250,000. This means that more government contracts and money flowing into local small businesses. And from December, we've also made it easier for small businesses to supply goods and services to government only by requiring insurance to be demonstrated when a contract is awarded. And this means that businesses can bear those insurance costs knowing that you've won the associated contract. We're also delivering greater and fairer opportunities to small businesses. The New South Wales Government continues to stand behind our state's small businesses, and we want to continue to give you the tools and the environment to succeed. But in order to do that, we also want you to engage with us. Tell us what you want, tell us what you need. We are here to help you. And while big business monopolise the media attention, we know that it is small businesses that do the quiet, underappreciated work of creating jobs and underpinning our success as a nation. Small businesses are the single largest employer in our country. You are the economic backbone of this country. So it is so important that government works with you to make sure that you succeed. Now, I look forward to continuing to work with you, as does the Minister, to deliver even more for small businesses to help you start, grow and thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. O'Neill, and she's the problem solver. So got any questions before she leaves, you can hand that to her. We're about to begin the interview, but before we do, on your seats you would have a little card like this, and I'm sure each and every one of you got some questions. Therese has got some, but Kristina wants to hear from you as well. So all you need to do is grab your phone out, get the camera, and up will come with the Slido app, and you can enter your question, and then Therese can choose what she thinks are maybe the best ones or whatever, and no doubt put them to Kristina, and they will answer them together. We also have a number of our business advisors. If you want to put your hands up, any of our business advisors who realise business, if you've got any questions or want to take your business to the next level with the support of the government, our business advisors are here to help. Make sure you catch up with them before the end of the evening. But now, I think there's a big round of applause coming as we welcome to the stage, to the seats here, Therese Tarlinton and Kristina Karlson for a little chat. So let's welcome them. Cheers.
Thank you, Martin. Welcome, everybody, especially Kristina. Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you. Well, you're amongst friends. All of us are small business owners, and we want to know all the juicy bits and pieces about your journey. Now, I remember I started my first business about the same time as you started KK, and I remember getting so much inspiration from what you were doing after. But even KK became my go-to gift. You know, when you had a girlfriend or a baby shower or a birthday. So I might have played a part in your success. I probably was your biggest customer. So I think for most of us, we know a little bit more about where KK started, but we don't know really how it all started for you. So I'd love to know more about your childhood in freedom and what you dreamt you might become when you grew up. Great.
Thank you. I just want to say first that English is my second language, and I tend to make up words between English and Swedish, which I call Swedish. So I just want to say that first up, because I often get laughed at, and my kids say you need to, when you do public speaking, you need to be able to speak proper English. But I haven't learned that yet, so I just wanted to say that first. But as a child, I grew up on a farm, and I had a very happy, lovely childhood. But there was one thing we never got to do, and that was travel. So because my parents were working all the time, and my dream was to see the world. And I came from a small little farm in Sweden and Australia. I felt this is before internet. I know it's hard to believe for some of you, but life existed before internet, but it was hard to even imagine what life could be on the other side of the world. So I always wanted to travel. And I started working really early. So, you know, I was maybe 8 or 9, had my first business. I had farm animals to start with. And then I was working for an entrepreneur who was really hard. Like, a lot of people could not work for him because he was just burning them out and working them really hard. But I was from a farm and I was used to work really hard. So I learned so much from him. And that got me excited, thinking, making enough money now so I can travel the world. And I then did that after school. And then when I got to Austria in a ski resort, I met my partner, Paul, who then asked me to come to Australia. And I thought I'll come for a year. And then I decided to stay and loved it so much. But I want to say, when I came here, I was really, really lost. I had no idea what to do with my life. So I was whinging and complaining all the time. And that's what really got me to KK. So for anyone who are here thinking that they're in a bit of a challenging spot, there was a couple of people who came up earlier and said that they had a bit of a challenging time. That happens to all of us. But the good thing is that you don't want to stay there. And it's a chance now to kind of transition if you are there at the moment. And we'll talk more about that, I'm assuming, how we are going to make that happen.
Absolutely. And so we all have our 3 a.m. questions, right? And we all lay awake thinking, what's my big idea? Will this make money? How am I going to bring it to market? So that's what happened to you, right?
Yeah. So 3 a.m., I think I woke up my partner 5 times that night, and he was a bit over it because I used to wake him up and said, what am I doing with my life? And at 3 a.m., he turned on the light and we said, why don't we write down what is important to you? And on my 3 a.m. list, I had that I wanted to drive to work every single day. I'm loving it. And for me, life is, regardless if we get to live a long life, life is short. So I want to drive to work every single day. I know some of you will be working from home. So that means that you go from the bedroom into the home office or to the corner and really be excited about what you're doing. So I wanted to have that. That was my first one. I wanted to have a business on my own. No idea. Like, zero idea. When I came to Australia, I worked for a corporate travel agency. And they said, can you create an invoice for that trip? And I was like, invoice? I thought it was a voice system. That is how basic. So if anyone think I have no idea, I had zero idea. But I wanted to have my own business, but I didn't have the skills. I didn't know what that was going to be, but I knew that I wanted to have my business. And then I wanted to have a connection with Sweden. I didn't want to choose one country to the other. I really want to have my life in 2 countries, Sweden and Australia. So that was part of it. And then I wanted to work with Swedish design because that was my passion. I think it's really important, especially when we go through challenging times. And I've had plenty of that over the 20 plus years in business. When we do something we really are passionate about, it's so much easier to get through the hard yards. And then the last one, which was the hardest one, was to make $500 a week. And that was based on paying rent, going to Sweden and eating some good food and drinking some nice wine. And that's how my kind of 3-year list formed my next decision. And that was to, what am I going to do with all these? These were my dreams on paper. And I thought, well, if I'm going to have my own business, I need to have a beautiful home office. And this is when home office kind of starting to take place. There was like the home computer starting to really be popular, and we started to work more from home. Nothing like we are today, but it was a bit of a change. Yeah. And I thought, I'm going to have my own office. I need a beautiful, beautiful environment. I think it's really important to be in an inspiring environment. And I couldn't find anything. It was, in my opinion, boring, bad quality. It was a price-driven category. So it was really cheap and, and not so great quality. So I didn't get depressed. That's not the right word. But I got a bit down and I thought, this is boring. And then I got really excited. I thought, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to open a beautiful Swedish design store specializing in stationery. And I'm going to open stores around the world. So I rushed home to Paul and I said to him, that's what I'm going to do. And he's like, do you know what that means? And I'm like, no. And this is a really good lesson for all of us here. It's good to not know what you don't know. And if I knew what I had to learn, what I had to go through, I'm not sure if I would even have started. So he was working for Ripco at the time in marketing, and Ripco are a global business. They design and manufacture, they wholesale, they retail, and they're global. So he knew a thing or two about what I was about to do. And I had no idea, but I was super, super excited.
So I agree. I think there's great strength in being naive, right? Because without the limitation, there's no limit.
Yeah. So, but if you're not naive like me, we can still dream big, and we'll talk about that. But if you're super clever and you think, I'm not that naive, we can still do it.
I think it just means that we really need to unleash ourselves a little bit and not have the constriction of saying, well, someone's done it before me, I shouldn't do it. We all have our unique ideas that we can bring to market in our unique way. Absolutely. So the idea was formed. Mm-hmm. What was the first product? Like, what did you do? What was the first thing? Who was the first customer?
Well, I wanted storage boxes. I'm like organizing, so I wanted everything neat and tidy. And I just couldn't find anything. So that was the first product. But I don't know if anyone remember back and you guys all look so young here, so you probably don't, but Officeworks and Newsagents and Daily Jones and Maya were the only really places where you could find any good stationery. And it was a price-driven category, so you could buy something for, like a garage folder or something for 99 cents or maybe even cheaper. So I want to do something very different. And if you have supported QPK, you know that we were not the cheapest category, or we were not the cheapest in the category. And I created these samples. So I actually borrowed $3,000 from Paul. That was my best investment ever. I never paid any interest, and I paid it back. So that was a really good one. But I borrowed that because I wanted to make some samples. And then I asked my friends, would you pay $20 for this or $90 and made journals and stuff at the same time? And everyone said yes. And I was like, oh, this is easy. This is too good to be true. So I thought it's one thing to tell me that they're going to pay $20 for a box or whatever it was, but it's another thing to give it to me. So I thought I need to work this out. So I asked my friends if they could put together almost like a Tupperware party. I didn't call it a Tupperware party, but I called it like a research kind of night, wine, cheese, and I set it up it was all color coordinated. It took me a couple of hours to set it up, all perfectly organized. And I had a tiny car, air conditioned, Melbourne, 40 degrees. I remember it very vividly. And it was so interesting because I learned so much by showing my products, asking for feedback, and asking for money in terms of would you buy it? And they voted with where they put their money. And it was really super interesting, and I learned so much. And then after that, I got really excited because I really wanted a retail store, because I felt like I started to wholesale, and I started to this is when internet selling was just starting. And I wanted to have a website, and I was really excited, but I didn't really feel like any people that I wholesale to, like any stores, can do what I had envisioned. So I asked Paul if he could sell his house to open my first store. And he did, and this is what 9/11 just happened, so it was not an easy decision. So I say this with a bit of a, it wasn't just like that. It was a bit of a working out, and it was a very uncertain time for all of us. And we decided to go for it anyway, and this is how we financed the first store. And that was probably one of the most exciting times in my life. It was so exciting, and I never worked in retail, and I had no idea. Someone said to me, you have to have a point of sale system, and I didn't know what that was. So there was a lot of learning, but we won so many awards for the most innovative store for customer service. And I remember a journalist from The Age, or Sydney Morning Herald, called me and said, why are you so good at service? And I was like, hang on. And I asked Amy, who I work with in my current business as well, I said, what are we doing so well? And she's like, I don't know, we're selling customers. And I'm like, yeah, we just have customers. And I was saying this in a kind of a simple way, but I do think sometimes we overthink service. And one of the things that I think we did really well, absolutely not perfect, if you had a bad experience, I apologize. But for us, we call our customers guests, because I wanted people to feel welcome when they came into the store. I want them to feel like they were like if they were going to come in and spend money, I wanted them to feel as a guest. And so there was so many exciting things in that beginning stage, which if you all have a small business, it's such an exciting time. It's frustrating, but so exciting.
Wow. And so I think for you know something which is quite true. There's a saying that your customers will be friends before your friends become your customers. Right, but true. But so I think that then, so you had your friends, you had the Tupperware party, then the money from Paul's house, opened the first store. What was that feeling of actually opening a door on the first day, making that first sale?
Oh, so exciting. I think I did, it was a couple of $100, and I was like, yeah, I made it. I was like, wow. Of course, I made a few browsers after that. But it was so exciting, and there's a lot of on Instagram and TikTok and places like that where when a small business owner make a sale, you make a happy dance. It is so true, and I always try my very best to support small businesses. Even and I'm a book club. I have a virtual book club now that I absolutely love, and I always try to buy it. I know Amazon and places like that are amazing, but I always try to support because I know that there is someone in that shop, who worked so hard. So I always try to support them. But it was the most exciting time. But you know what the most exciting thing was? That so many of my friends and every bank that I went to, I couldn't even get a credit card coming from Sweden. So I couldn't get any bank loans. That's why I had to convince Paul to sell this house. And then everyone said to me, there's no way you're going to get into Shansen to even the Bondi Junction. Bondi Junction kind of just we're developing the Black Centre, which was the Bondi Junction here, which, for now we take for granted, but back then it was like super exciting, and I was like, I want to get in there. And everyone was like, there's no way you get in there. And then every shopping centre, maybe not every, but all the good ones that I wanted to be knocked on the door. And I was like, Paul, we need more houses to sell. And we did not have more houses to sell. And I'm sure we're going to talk about how I funded that.
Absolutely. And that's I guess the next question, because for all of it, that's a really big part of business, right? And when I guess even from that first store to the second, to the fifth, to the 10th, I mean, there was, to go from 1 into 3 and then from 3 to 5. Yeah. It's such a big leap. So before you went to the banks, how did you find maybe those first?
Yeah, well, the banks didn't actually, I went to the bank many times, but they didn't they liked me, but they didn't like the business. They said, history. And I'm like, if you say history one more time, just open one more, just open one more, just open one more. And I was really frustrated. So what happened is I realized that for us to grow and be a really great business, we needed to manufacture in a much more efficient way. So we started manufacturing in Melbourne, and it was really expensive, and the quality wasn't great. So I felt like we really needed to get volume to kind of be able to go offshore. So I went to the banks and investors, but it was too early, and it was just not enough proof for people and for banks. So I went to the shop fitter and I said, if we pay, so normally a shop fitter, when you have a new business, you will have to pay up front because you're not, haven't proven that you can work it out yet. So I went to him, super nice guy, in his kind of late 50s, early 60s, so had been around for a while and knew how hard it was. So he said, and I just signed with my blunt. I think I felt like I did that with every lease that I signed. We had 120 stores in the end. But he basically got us over the hump in terms of getting to 5 stores. So he let us not pay up front, open a store, and if we opened close to Christmas, we made enough money there then to pay him back. And that's how we kind of financed the first 5 stores. And then we got an investment for the first time. And it was actually with one of those banks, and it was the private part of the bank. And I know we think interest rate is high now, but I can't even say it loud how much interest I paid. It's part loan, part equity. So they were a shareholder. It was horrendous. But I felt the whole time, if we can get some cash in, so we can start manufacturing offshore, if we make a much higher margin, and then it was okay to pay that kind of high interest, and then obviously we pay that back. So we had lots of different ways of funding the business. So private investors, private equity, and friends and family, and like had it all. To everyone. Yes, everyone, and I did everything because there was retail is hard because if you get 1 or 2 leases wrong, it's hard. It's hard because you often sign if you think you find the right shop, and when you sign a lease, you really, like I used to stand and watch how many people walk past every shop, but how many had shopping bags, and then I got friendly with them. T2 and Body Shop and Mecca and all those people, and I asked, what do you turn over in these shopping stores? And then I did like a percentage, so I kind of worked out what we would turn over. That was, the best guess that we can do. And sometimes we got it right, and sometimes we got it wrong. So it's a hard one to invest in. So yeah.
But I think that's very clever. I mean, for all of us, to actually go to T2, to go to similar type of stores in terms of frequency of purchase and the shopping cart size, and actually say, like, based on the traffic in this centre, what do you think, what is possible, what's good, what's bad?
Yeah, and eventually, like, you see a pattern, so you wouldn't see what Titi would turn over here and in like 5 different centres and what we would do, and then we can see roughly how we differed and then the good thing is that, I'm sure we're going to talk about partnership, but the good thing when you partner with people that are similar to you, then you learn so much. So I had no idea about retail, and I learned everything from mentors and people who have done it before. So I had a lot of copies with people who knew what they were doing. So I learned a lot from that.
Yeah. Well, obviously, partnership is something I feel very strong.
Absolutely, and you are the pros, and you should tell us what to do there. But I think it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. But even when you're saying about the shop fitter, having that relationship that you can build to say, can we wiggle a little bit?
Yeah.
And actually do something and then give you the money up to Christmas. Yeah. I think for a lot of small business owners, we need to use other small businesses who know that path, and then they can help us in that decision making. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you've got your few stores, you're on the go, you're running, and then you decide that you actually want to have Paul as the CEO, and you're going to take the design direction. So many of us wear all the hats, right? For all the time. We're putting out the bins, we're doing the accounts, we're doing our bags, we're calling customers. At what point did you decide that you were going to bring in Paul and actually do the design work yourself?
Yeah, there's a couple of components of this one. First, Paul joined when he sold the house, but he realized that I wasn't so good with cash flow and all those kind of things. So he joined. He's like, I think I need to help you get off the ground. And I never really got off the ground. So he was part of he was the CEO until 2016. But in the beginning, as you can, I'm sure most of you can relate to, is that you wear all the hats. And actually, I started a new business now, so I'm back in wearing all the hats. So I know that very well. And the worst thing is that I think now, after 25 years in business, I should know a thing or two. But I feel like I don't actually know so much because things have changed so much. But we actually just throw ourselves in, worked a lot, and this is one of the things that I said in the beginning, that when you're passionate, it's just so much easier. So I would spend weekends going to the warehouse. I loved stock taking. I know some people don't love that, but I loved all that. I mean, I didn't love it in the end because we came too much, but I just loved all the things. And my friends, we live in Melbourne, and everyone will go to the races, and I'll be like, oh, this is a long weekend. I'm going to go to the warehouse and reorganizing. And I used to go up here to Sydney, and I used to go into a store after closing. And I said to boy, I'm just gonna do a couple of things. And then I took the whole store apart. And at 3 a.m. and I said to him, why don't you fix the point of sale system? We need, there's a few bugs in that. And he was like, oh, do you have to do this at 3 a.m.? We were still doing the visual merchandising. I was so passionate about it, and I loved it so much. But it came to a stage where we had to have different roles. In the beginning, we kind of did everything, and then we had different strengths. So, but none of us were really good. None of us had really any idea about retail. So he would run it, and then I'd be like, I don't think you're doing a very good job. I think I'm going to take it over. So then I took it over, and then he'd be like, I don't think you're managing the staff your rosters very well. I'm like, we can have it. So we kind of did that for years, and then as soon as I was over it, I pushed it back, and it was kind of really because we had different strengths. And the reason why we became really good at retail was not because we were good in the beginning. It was because when we decided to go global, and we opened a couple in Melbourne, and we opened here in Bondi Junction, and we opened New Zealand and Singapore, and all my mentors were like, you are crazy, you need to do like 20 in Victoria, and then 20 in New South Wales, and then Queensland. And I didn't follow any of that because my dream and my big vision, and was very, very clear to become a global business. So I needed to kind of really systemize the whole business. So the reason why we became really good at retail was because you systemize everything. You don't have to be a retailer to do that. If I do it now, and it's so important for all of you, if you want to grow and if you want to scale, to systemize it. So the book that I read was The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Some of you would have read that. I haven't read it for a long time, but I think it's as relevant as it was back then. And I recommend it all the time to small businesses, because when you have so many hats and also if you're a control freak like me, it's hard to vision merchandising. When we had, I don't know how many stores, but a lot of stores, I just couldn't be everywhere. And so sometimes the windows were not changed because of then I have to let it go, and I'm like, really? But we needed to systemize it. So I don't know if anyone remember KPK handwriting. My girlfriends used to say, do you fly to Perth to change the where was it a welcome board? And so we trained everyone. So everything was systemized, including the handwriting. So it was really important to be able to do that. And then what was the actual question now again? Sorry, I forgot the why. Okay, so anyway, so I just want to make sure I don't take over here. And then we systemized everything, and then the CEO, that's what I'm coming back to now. And then when I had children, now there are 16 and 13, both entrepreneurs. I have a saying, and I think it's why we succeeded in the beginning. I'll talk more about that in a second. But we have the big saying in our office, or in our own office, and also at home, don't say no, say how. And it really is what made us not give up. And our kids, lived that as well. It's really annoying as a parent because they said, "Oh, mom, you tell everyone don't do me again, don't say no, say how." And I'm like, does not apply kids to parents. Anyway, so when I had children, I realized that I just could not do it the way that I had done it, like in terms of working 24/7, traveling and all over. You know, it didn't really matter where I was because, we just worked. And when you work with your partner, like we lived and were breathing the business. So when I had children, that's really forced me into a kind of a work-life balance. And then Paul took over as the CEO. And what I was really good at, I was definitely not a great CEO. I was definitely not a good people manager. I was not good at retail. The thing that I think I had some clue on was product, and something I really, really enjoyed. And then I did, PR and marketing because we had no budget for marketing and PR. So I did all that. And as an introvert, that was a hard thing to actually do, but I did it anyway.
So there's so many bits of gold in that conversation, but I guess the first one I want to ask around is manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
So I also have that background, and I remember when I got to a stage where I was doing a container every month, and I thought I was the biggest thing until I went to the factory and Walmart was doing a container every 10 minutes. And you realize that you are a very, very small cog in the wheel. So in terms of your manufacturing, tell us about the different factories that you had and how you managed that. You talked about procedures. How did you actually make sure that standard, that dream of what you actually had was the reality in the store?
Yeah. So when we started in Melbourne, and I want to start there because I went into one of our main suppliers or manufacturers, and he did not like me because every Friday I would take my car and I would drive up the northern part of Melbourne and do an inspection on quality. And he's like, "Oh, she comes again." And then he took me aside and was like, "You are so annoying because you're never happy." But quality was really, so we set the standard really high from the beginning. And then when we got the investment, our first private equity involved, we got a sum for manufacturing to manufacture overseas and then expand that. So in the beginning, we did less than 50% KKK products in the store. And the margin was really slim for retail. So when you pay really high rents, you have to have a really good margin. Otherwise retail does not work. So I went to China. I've never been to China, and I did a fair, and it was like being in a money shop. I was just like, "Oh, this is so exciting," because I used to go to these manufacturers in Melbourne, and because it's expensive and we don't have the workforce in Australia who wants to do that kind of work. So everything that I wanted, I got excited every day about a new product, and then like, "Oh, here we go again. She's so annoying. She wants complicating things." And in China, they're like, "Oh, do you want this?" And I'm like, "Oh, can I have this?" And it's like, it was like, lolly shop, we just get more and more lollies in the bag. And in Sweden, we ate a lot of bullies. Anyway, it was so exciting. And I just walked, I don't know if anyone been to the fairs, but it's just massive, I just walked and walked and walked, and it was fascinating. I learned so much. I learned about, quality, margin. We used to do a recipe organizer back in the day. It was one of my best sellers. I was very good. And I can't remember what it cost, but it was expensive to produce here. And then I found someone to make it in China. And I was there with my designer. She's still in my new business now. I took her with me from Gate to my new business. And I said to her, "We're going to drink champagne tonight," because the margin went from very, very low to very, very high. And I worked out, based on our stores, and I was like, "We can drink champagne tonight." It was so exciting, not because of the champagne, although that was very short-lived, but it was so exciting because we had the opportunity now to create products that was not possible. So the standards, we were really, really working really, really hard with the quality. We didn't always get it right, that's for sure. But it was systemized. I went to every factory, and I had a really good relationship. And again, partnership. It's all about partnership with the manufacturers, and also making sure that they did the right thing, because obviously we are very far away. But I used to go there, and in the end, I wasn't so involved in that. But it was something that I really enjoyed and something I learned so much. And the more I learned, the more we could do. And in the end, we had 100% KKK products from starting from much less than that.
Yeah, brilliant. And so the other thing that you mentioned was about having kids. So for a lot of us here, that's a balance that we have to do. I know I started my business and had kids quite early, and then was balancing everything. And you feel as a mum, I know sometimes I felt I wasn't doing as well as I could at home, and I wasn't doing as well as I could in my business, and it's always a juggle. How did you find that? I mean, your business was huge. Was it about having the right staff in place? You talked about procedures. How did you balance motherhood?
I think I systemized everything at home as well. But I want to. So, I mean, when I had kids, the business started like it was not in the beginning. I didn't have the kids in the beginning. I don't know how I was. If I ever would have been able to do that, it would have been much harder. And doing a startup now is hard with kids because the financial pressures that you have when you have kids is very different, because I didn't really care. I'm never driven by money. I just wanted to do what I love. That was my pure drive the whole time. But one thing that I did that I'm really glad, but I was not sure at the time if that was the right thing to do. So my son, since he was 4, is a mini me. He's a pure entrepreneur. He even, he just got his learning plates. He's 16. And I was away and I got back, and my partner, Paulie, said something about becoming an Uber driver. And I'm like, are you becoming an Uber driver? And he said, Axel, our son, made me sign up to Uber Eats. So when he does his learning, out driving, we deliver Uber Eats. That's how that's entrepreneurial.
That is brilliant. I love that idea. I think that is entrepreneurial.
Yeah, and he's so and I want to share that just because that was not a given when he was 4. But I never ever forget, because we shared everything and the good times, and we had some really, I'm sure we're going to get to the challenges.
Yeah.
We had some big challenges, not just the one that you guys will know. We had lots of challenges over the years, like every business do, like ups and downs and crises and all these things. But one thing that I did really early was to involve the kids in everything, the good thing, the bad thing. And sometimes I was like, I wonder if this is a good thing. And Axel he was an easy child. My daughter, not so much, in terms of she couldn't travel the same way because she's like, I'm not doing that. Versus Axel would be like, what can I help? What can I do to help? So he's really an entrepreneur. And I used him as, so there's no child labor here. I just want to say that up front. But I did have him as my little worker, because I felt like if he's going to come, we traveled really well. We stayed in amazing places. But I felt like the whole time, he needs to learn. So we were in London. We opened in London, and so I was in London all the time. So he was there a lot, and I said, you have to find 5 facts about London. Does not matter, and could not Google it. He has to ask people. He had to work out all the meetings, look at where we were taking it, a tube or a taxi or an Uber, the airport, how much we spend on each thing. Like, I really made him work. So now he has his own business, and he actually went to a Sydney trip a couple of days ago. He has a golf apparel business, and he wants to do, he applied to go on Shark Tank, and he's doing all these things. He's only 16, but it's so amazing when you're able to involve your kids in something. I was so passionate. So when he was 4, I had to stop the car because I wasn't quite sure if I heard the right thing. And I said, did you just really say what I thought you said? He said, how does margin work? I was so focused on margin. That was my drive, because I was so excited about it, because we manufactured here. And then I was like, I spoke about margin all the time. I was so excited, and it was also one of my KPIs. And it was so exciting. And so I involved the kids. And when we went under, when we lost the business, that was one thing I had no idea if the kids were able to cope, because I knew the whole time that I'll survive this, but I was not sure if the kids, because I knew the whole time, if I've done it once, I'm sure I can do it twice. And I knew that I had the resilience, but I wasn't quite sure of the kids, because it was about 2 years that this was really up and down. But involving the kids from the beginning has been really good. So I took Axel to Africa. and we support schools there. And he asked for water, and I said to him, "Do you realize these kids? There was 1,000 kids playing cricket with him." I said, "Do you realize that they have been walking here? They played as much as you did, and then they're going to walk home and no water." And as soon as we jumped in the car, he said, "How can we get water?" And he actually did We Fund Me or something website. So the 2 schools that we support, not just the schools, the actual communities now have water. So I feel like I'm included him in the entrepreneurship, but also in the hardships in terms of African schools. We used to stay in really amazing hotels, but I always took him for a walk every single night. And he always said, "Oh, do we really have to go for that walk?" I wanted him to see the cities, like if we're Paris, London, New York, to see, kids and people on the street. So I felt like he was really, he's a good kid, he's rounded, but he's a true entrepreneur. And I think it would only work if you have an easy child to do that, but I'm so glad I did. And I think the more we share, if it's not this in the same context that I did, I think the more excitement we have in the family. Like we speak about business all the time, and it's more about their businesses now than ours.
Love that. So there's so many parts of that where you mentioned some of the highs. When I was doing my research, at its peak, KKK was in 2,000 retail stores in 150 countries, and more than 20 million people a year use KKK products. I mean, that is phenomenal. What was... What were some of the things that, and as you said, like the moment with Axel when you were looking at the water, like how you could bring clean water, what were some of those moments where it was not the traditional, I've made it, I've got, money in the bank, but one of those kind of pinch me moments where you're like, wow, I did this. I'm making stuff happen. I made this happen. What were some of the success stories or a successful moment that you felt you were really proud of what you'd accomplished?
Yeah. There were so many of those, but the thing that I want to focus on, which I think is relevant for everyone here, is every single day I just walked down the stairs and I said, "Lucky me." And I did that even when we went under, because I just loved what I did. And I think that out, like we won awards and we had the Swedish king and queen coming to give us awards. It was all these amazing things that I think was more exciting for my parents than me. But it was all these amazing things. But doing what you love every single day, I think I had a really big dream. And I know that those dreams that I had on my 3am list might not have seemed big, but for me, coming from a farm on the other side of the world, having no idea about much, that was amazing to be able to create a business that I loved so much. And the other thing that I loved so much is that I used to go into stores and I used to absolutely love what people hear, like what people were saying without knowing that I was listening about the products, because I just felt like some people, I don't know if there's any stationary freaks. I call them freaks because I'm one of those. But if they're in here, you will understand. But if you're not, you might not understand. But people came in so excited about a pencil and an eraser and a journal and a book that we might have worked with an author. And it was just so exciting to see. But I think of all that, the number one was when people came in and they were going through a challenging time. So this is when they just got a cancer diagnosis or depression or divorce or someone passed away or something that was really challenging. They came in because they wanted a journal. I always talk about journaling, and I always talk about what an impact that it had on my life. And I've heard some of you share that today already, how much my book or my journals have had an impact. And that is what I think is the most exciting thing, because now I'm doing journals again, not with KKK, but with Dream Life. And we just did a partnership with the BCNA, Breast Cancer Network Australia. And that came about with me doing a fun run. I don't love running, but I love a challenge. So I did a fun run. And then I was standing there looking at all these kids running for their mums. And And then I thought, I just really want to create good, like we did a lot of good things with KKK for sure, but it was much bigger. We had private equity in the end. It was much more a machine, versus now I'm back in control and loving it. And now I want to do more good. I want to do business because we need to do business to survive, but I also want to do much more good, and be able to do those partnerships is just so amazing. And journaling, I don't know how many times I've been interviewed by journalists asking me about work-life balance. And I said, journaling. And they said, no, the real stuff. And I'm like, this is the real stuff. Journaling has really, I never had a burnout. And I worked hard, and I also raised 2 kids. And we had stores in actually 6 countries, not 5, and also wholesale and online. And journaling is what kept me sane, and it seemed very simple, but it's not simplistic. It's a beautiful way of actually dealing with all the ups and downs that we face in business.
Great advice. So I want to talk a little bit about funding, because I also read that Gillian Franklin read and saw her
You've
speak.
done your research.
And you went and saw her speak because you wanted to know about private equity, and she became a mentor of yours.
Mm-hmm.
And then
So grateful for her.
Gosh.
Yeah.
And then in 2016, you sold a 20% stake in your business to a private equity firm. That's a huge step in your business. And I think for a lot of people, they don't really understand what that looks like, how you get into that position, what it feels like on the other side. Could you take us through what is private equity and how did you do it?
Yeah. But so I did a lot of different private, and the last one was a big one, but I did a lot of that. So I got really used to selling shares in the business. So for me, it was never really about owning the whole thing. I just wanted to do what I loved. That was my whole drive the whole time. What I never really wanted to do was to give up control, and I only did that in the last transaction, and I'm sure we're going to get to that. But I was really happy to give away part of my business to be able to do what I love doing, because and everyone will be driven by different things, but I was never driven by making lots of money. I want to make enough money so I can live an amazing life, and I got to that. And after that, I just wanted to do what I love doing, and the global aspect wasn't about making more money. I actually felt sorry for people around the world not experiencing all our beautiful products, because we run it as a fashion business, and we were in and out with so many of the products, and I was like, they haven't even seen them in the US or in the UK, and I just felt like we had so much to offer. So for me, the giving or selling shares wasn't a big issue. Obviously done that I'm not a finance person. I know the numbers, and I knew that, but I was never really interested in knowing every single detail. So we had a really, really good CFO, and obviously once we got into private equity, we had a board, etc. So when I say this, it seems very simple, but it wasn't simple to kind of make deals like that. But something we kind of did all the time. So it was absolutely necessary for us to fund a business to go global. So in terms of advice, I would be more about what is the end goal. What is your dream? Is it to make a lot of money, or is it to have a small sliver of a big pie versus having the whole pie? And that's how I always saw it. And I was like, I'd much rather have a tiny bit on a big pie, because I felt like we could do so much more if we became global. We could do so much more if we could manufacturing in a better way. And in the end, the private equity deal that we were actually about to sell the business. I'm sure we'll get to that. That was with one of the best manufacturers in the world for our products. So I was super, super excited about that. So the funding came in so many different ways. Sometimes we had to raise capital because we might not have had a good Christmas. We really were a seasonal business. Between October to January, if we didn't make enough money there, we had a really, really tough year, and we had plenty of those. And, in the early days, when I was doing the bookkeeping, that's why I outsourced that very quickly, because I wasn't so good at it. I used to actually ask, we had a small amount of people working with us, and I used to say, who has a mortgage, who lives at home, we can't pay everyone this week. I'll pay you, if you have a mortgage, I'll pay you first. And if you're living at home, you have to wait for a week. I know that there will be some accountants here really like, oh, that's a horrible thing to do. But that's how we kind of run it. And, and also I always get in trouble saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway, because I like breaking rules. But I used every single credit card that I could get my hand on to fund the business to start with, not recommending it, not saying this is the only way, but I needed money to be able to manufacture. And that's so I didn't really care so much about the bottom line to start with. I cared more about the possibility to get a good margin so we can grow. But I'm not, so I just want to say that's not an advice to take every credit card that you can add. And also I sold everything that I kind of had, and I still do that. Like, I'm just like, we need to fund this, so let's sell something.
Yeah. So you did talk about the next stage, which was that you wanted to sell, you found a Chinese manufacturer, COVID hit.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about what happened?
Yep. So I actually didn't want to sell. I just want to say that first. But in the end, I did. But in the beginning, so this manufacturer, a Chinese manufacturer, knocked on our door a few times, and we said no. And then they kept saying it just became a better and better offer. And then we said, why don't we look at it? And this is when we had, a private equity, the last one that we had already. So it was kind of a bit of a complicated way of doing it. But then we had a lot of challenges going on at this time. So we had bushfires in Australia, we had Brexit in the UK, we had all the issues in Hong Kong, and retail is tough. So we had, it was a bit of a perfect storm when COVID hit, because it was just lots going on. But these people wanted to buy us, and in the end, the private equity said they wanted to sell, and me and Paul were going to be a small shareholder in this Chinese transaction. So we were still going to be small shareholders. They did not really, they wanted the brand into China. They wanted to open thousands of stores in China. And so that, again, really exciting. And manufacturers amazing at manufacturing. I was so excited. So I thought they wanted the brand in China. We wanted to continue the rest of the world. So once we signed the term sheet and it was the deal was done, it didn't go through. So I'll talk about that in a second. But it was kind of, when it's a term sheet, it's basically just really about the D&D, and you want to, work out how it's all going to happen. And this kind of behind the scene work with all the lawyers and the accountants and entrepreneurs, incredibly frustrating, because I like, things going quick, and I'm just like, why is it taking so long? Anyway, I was in Germany. We were doing the Frankfurt Fair for the first time with a team from China. And I said to, one of the ladies said, I'm really worried about this virus. And I have been around for a while. I've seen a few viruses, and I'm also a positive, healthy person. So I said to her, why don't we just go and get some multivitamins and let's just get on with this. And that was COVID. And of course, they knew a little bit more than we did. So I flew back. And then everything started to unravel. And they actually pulled out of this deal. And we needed funding to survive the bush, like everything that we were having a challenge. So we needed more funding. And then because they pulled out and the private equity already made a decision to sell, they say, hey, we are done with this now. So they put us into administration. This is the saddest day of my life, because it was like, it wasn't just a business to me, as you probably have heard now. It was like a family. Like I never really saw myself, like it's my nickname, and also I never saw myself separate from the business. So it's like, I never really said, this is, KKK owns this, I own this, it's like whatever. Like, and it was just a very flirty business, and very much a family, very much a purpose-driven, very much we were a human first business. We really cared about people, and we wanted people to enjoy the journey, even if they were with us just for a short time. So it was a really, really sad day. And the good thing in the hard times, in the middle of all this, was that I knew the whole time that someone will pick us up, because we were a globally loved brand, and I knew that a good business will pick us up. So I had that within me, and that happened. So we did a deal with a US business, and I was excited about that because they were a similar business to us in the US. And when I looked at their turnover, and they had a very narrow collection versus us, I was like, we can make this happen in the US. I was really excited about it. We did a deal. This is in the hard lockdowns. I know we haven't removed ourselves from that, but very real still. So we couldn't go and see them. We couldn't meet them. We're very much a human business. So for us, it was really important that we partner with people who have good values. And we thought they did, and we did a deal over Zoom, and we got a second chance. And that year, I never worked, well, I probably have worked so hard, but I worked 24/7 to turn the business around. I don't know if anyone's been in administration, but when you've been in an administration, it's like running in mud. Like, it's hard. Like, there's just not a smooth, easy path, even to just redo things. It's just really hard, and you don't have any credit, and it's just difficult. So we worked, and we also needed to change a lot of things. So it was like a lot of things happening. And also, this is in the middle of COVID, stores being, team members losing parents and grandparents and global business, and it was just a mess. But we were excited. Like, I'm a positive person, and I was like, and also Swedish, I looked at what Sweden were doing with COVID, and very different to what Australia were doing. So I felt the same sometimes. And also there was just so many things that made me believe that we cannot have the closed, like, we basically had months of our doors closed, especially in Victoria. And I knew the whole time that just no way that we can't continue for years doing this, because no one will be having a business left. So I was really optimistic, and we needed a few $1 million to secure funding for our Christmas period coming up. So we do that around June every year. And so I said, hey, we need to sign off. They didn't sign off, and then they just called me and said, we are worried about the Australian government, how they deal with COVID. And I'm like, no, we'll be fine. And they said, no, we're going to pull out. So they put us into administration number 2. And that was even worse, because that was the first administration was done in the best possible way in terms of the board. Everything was done by the book. Everyone was informed. We had daily meetings. It was an awful thing to be part of, but it was done in a very professional, by the book, like everything. This was the opposite. They put me against the team, so the team were not allowed to speak to me. It was like, having your family removed from yourself overnight, and it was just awful. And that's when I made a decision to no longer I said, I don't, and all my friends are like, be open. I'm like, no, I'm not open. I'm not going to continue, because I am an entrepreneur. I don't want to be in other people's hands. And I also thought, if I've done it once, I can do it twice. And I want to be back doing what I love. And that's what I'm doing now. So even though it was really tough, and I'm sure we're going to talk about how I dealt with that, but I'm in a really good space now, and I'm back in that excitement of a journal or a pencil or a new coaching member or a new book. So it's really exciting.
Yeah. And I think that for you, that, as you said, like, it's the journaling and everything helped you heal.
Yeah.
As you said, that was the worst day of your life.
Yeah.
And it would have been, you birthed that brand, you grew, you nurtured, and then it was gone.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But to your spirit, you now have Dream Life.
Yeah.
And it is a whole new take, a whole new invention on what you're doing. And you have said that you have set your ambition to have 101 million people write down their dreams and chase it.
Yeah. I want to talk about that, because I think we all should dream big. The 101 million, I don't really care about that number. But when you set really, really big dreams, like in the beginning, I wanted to have a global business. And when you don't even know how to open your first store, a global business seems impossible. But the good thing is, and I actually set myself, I'm now speaking, and I set myself for the next financial year to do 104 talks. And everyone's like, why do you set such a crazy, that's not realistic. And I'm like, I don't want to be realistic, because if I'm realistic and I think, oh, maybe I can get 25 or 50 or whatever speaking, then I'll just be sitting home thinking, oh, that's easy. I love a big challenge. I love thinking outside the square. So doing 104 talks, I need to be out there and selling myself. I need to be out there speaking and really doing it. So the 101 million people to chase 3 dreams is because I saw by my simple dreams how my life completely changed in a very positive way. I could never, ever have imagined what an incredible life that I got to have, and how many people I've met, and how many incredible moments I've had, and how many incredible products that we produced that made an impact on people's lives. So it's not about the number, it's about thinking really big. So my business name now is Dream Life, because I want everyone to have the dream life, whatever that is. And a dream life is not a global business. It's not, super big. It's whatever is right for you. And that's why I'm so passionate about small business, because I want to have a global business, but I don't want to have a big team again. I really just want to keep it small and simple, but global, because it's so much easier now to be global when you have internet. But it's just an exciting thing to dream big. So I think, if I may say, the 3 things that I think made us really succeed. One was to really dream big, even if we have no idea how to make it happen. So I think all of you, if you got one thing out of today, dream so big, even if you have 0 idea how to make it happen. And set a really clear vision. So it's a clear vision for you, and it's a clear vision for the people that work with you. But not just work with you in terms of teams, the bank. Like, there's no way we would have got the bank, the private equity involved if we were not having a really clear vision and so passionate. So that's the other one. Do something you're really passionate about, because when you ride the ups and downs that happens to all of us in every single business, we all set plans like this, and I've never seen a plan, actually, the curve never goes like that. It's always up, down, and the excitement of having the challenge. So dream big, set a really clear vision, be passionate what you do, and don't say no, say how. So this is something that I put strategically above the CFO, because I always wanted more money for products. And I always looked at him, and then I looked at that, and he's like, oh, roll his eyes. But don't say no and say how is because the reason we became a success is not because we had a great business. I think all of us have to have a good product or a good service, but that is a given. That's kind of the level that all of us have to have. It's don't say no, say how, and don't take no for an answer that makes us even make it or break it, because there were so many times that it would have been so much easier to give up. And I never gave up, and I just kept going, and I just felt, and it doesn't mean that you take the same route the same time and hit you after you got the same no 3 times and you hit yourself in the wall, then you change to your plan. But the whole idea is to actually not saying no and finding a way. And I think that's why, I don't know what the statistics are in small business in today, but it's always been really high in terms of failure rate in the first 5 years. And it's often not because the business is not great. I think it's so easy to give up because it's really, really hard in the first 5 years. So don't say no has served me. Our team hated it because I never took no for an answer. They're like, oh, we can't. I'm like, nah, find another way. Let's find another way. And I think that's really what really made us the success that obviously didn't work in the end. But the last 24 hours before they put us into administration, I did not sleep a minute. And I just said to Paul, let's not give up. And that's what I think we had many, many moments over the years like that when we made it, but obviously not the last one.
So thank you to everyone for sending through your questions. We just have 4 quick questions for you from the audience. So the first one is, what emerging trends are you most excited about? And what do you feel are the biggest opportunities for new entrepreneurs?
ChatGPT. AI. Maybe not ChatGPT, but AI. So having started a business when internet was just starting to AI, it would be like coming to the world as a alien and thinking, wow, this is amazing. So AI is going to help small business in the most incredible way. So that is what I see to myself. I'm not really good at it, and we utilize it, but I feel like there's so much potential. But saying that, we also then need a human connection. So we need to be good at both, in my opinion. But I see that, if we work with people, that's something we need to be really good at. But we also need to be really good at AI, and it's an exciting time. It's also a really scary time for AI.
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually do all the in digital solutions. We have AI services for you, so we can help you with that.
We love it.
Next question is, you've kind of covered this, but I guess just what advice would you give to someone who is currently facing a major setback and really struggling to see a path forward? What help?
I would actually, so I think one thing that I did really, I never had a burnout, and that was because, and I think that's why I coped quite well losing a business as well. I got criticized to be too positive, which I thought was quite funny. But I always looked after my health. So and I think for anyone who's, and it's challenging climate today, so looking after your health will be number one in small business. But even if you're not in a challenging time business-wise, I think health and well-being, because it does not matter how big your business is or how amazing your products are. If you are not well enough and have the energy to do whatever you want to do with that, it doesn't really matter. So look after your health, and that's physical health, mental health. So there's a few things that I did when I was going through the really challenging time. Was I walked every single day for at least an hour, and this was in COVID. So we had lots of restrictions in Melbourne, and I'm an entrepreneur, so I broke every rule, but I was... I'm also an introvert, so I didn't want to be around people. So I didn't feel like I did anything bad in terms of spreading COVID or getting COVID. But walking, like, just so simple. And often people say, well, that's like everyday stuff, and it's common sense. But a lot of common sense is not commonly practiced. So walking. Meditation. So I love Sydney, and I come back every time I'm up here, and I'm here all the time. I come back with my deck moving to Sydney. Obviously not so good at negotiating that yet. But I was sitting down by the water before, and I meditated. So I meditate almost daily. And when I say daily, I'm human just like you guys. So I miss days, but it's part of my morning routine. The other thing is to journal. So I don't sit with a lot of things in my head, and I try not to whinge and complain as much. So I journal about it. So I do 3 pages every morning, just clearing my head. So if you're going through a challenging time now, get it out of your system. So maybe see a coach or a therapist, or do some journaling. The other one is perspective. So this is something that I did in the hardest of the times. And one of my friends passed away in cancer a few years ago, and he was an entrepreneur. He was a retailer as well, as Danny from Blue Illusion, if anyone knows him. But he passed away, and I put his photo on my vision board to never ever take for granted to be alive. So even if I went through a really rough time, and you go through a very challenging time, it could always get worse. And I know that that's not really always helpful while you're in the middle of it, but for me, it was really, really helpful, because I felt like I still had my family. When you go through a challenging time or you lose your business like I did, I still had my experience, I still had my knowledge, I still had my attitude, I still had my health, my friends. The only thing that people could take away from me was my business. And, I know I've done that, so I can do that again. So perspective was really, really, really helpful. And then when you get all your mental health, that is number one, and your health sorted in your challenging time, then it's time to dream big. dream and ask yourself, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? If you had all the money and the resources and the skills and the knowledge that we never had in small business, what would you do? That just opens up things that you might not even have thought of. So if there's one thing I want anyone to walk away with is dream, even if you have no idea how to make it happen, and especially in challenging times. Because when I used to do this with my team, I found out so many things like, what, are we not already doing that? Oh, that is so easy. Why don't we implement that? Like sometimes when we dream big, even the simplest stuff is kind of coming out of the woodwork.
Brilliant. Next quick question is just around media exposure. So what's your advice for gaining media exposure when you're wanting to share a great new product or idea or service?
That's how we built the first business, for sure. So we didn't have any money for marketing. So Paul, my partner, said, you need to go and see all the editors. And I don't know if you've seen Devil Wears Prada, but that's how scared I was for, back in the day, editors were really they were like the royalty of, the press. And so I was really scared, but I did it anyway. It's good to do something that was challenging. And the way I did it was actually not saying how good my products was. I was asking them, what do you think? And what do you think we should improve? And what would you have done? And I think they felt like they took me under their wing and they kind of helped me so much because of that. So free PR, I entered every single award that I possibly could enter. And we actually won an award for the best website. And this is our first website. And so I said to Paul, I entered this award. And he said, you're crazy. The website is not even finished. And I said, it's never going to be finished. It's going to be a work in progress. And I never forget, because it was Channel 9. There was Channel 9 who supported the Small Business Awards. And they called me when I just opened the store. And I missed like 3 calls from Sydney. And back then, every missed call was always about me being behind paying bills. So I was always like, I don't know. And he sounded really hard. And I was like, So then he called me for the 4th time and he said, it's me from Channel 9 and you're a finalist. And I said, that's great, but I just opened a store and we just installed these point of sale systems and I have no idea how to do this. And I said, I can't come to Sydney. And he said, well, you actually won out of 800 websites and we got so much PR out of that. So even if you think you're not worthy, and I remember someone nominating me for Telstra Business Women's Award. And when I went there, I was like, the winner that year, she had 9 children, supported 300 charities, turned $1 million. I was just like, what am I doing here? And it was like, I felt like, yeah. But what really got me inspired, and when you see people ahead of you, so some of you might think, we created this global business. We're just a few years ahead if you just started, and see that as an inspiration, not a threat, and learn from it. So I just learned so much from being part of the Telstra Business Women's Award, and then eventually I won it. And that would never, ever have happened if I didn't really embrace media and embrace PR and enter every award. Even if you think, I'm not going to win it, just enter it every year until you win it. And then you get lots. And then it becomes your story, because they'll be like, not only have you entered like 300 times, you're also really resilient, and then you have a really good story.
I love it. Persistent. And the last one is, what's your final piece of advice for anybody who is in this room and has a great big idea, and maybe it's their family, well-meaning, maybe it's their friends who are kind of poo-pooing their idea. They've got the naysayers. What would your advice be?
Love that question, because I see that so I now have a new product business, and we haven't spoken about this, but now we print on demand. It's like having millions of dollars in inventory over many, many years. I can only imagine if you weigh 300 kilos and you lose 250 of that. That's how it feels like printing on demand, because technology now is just so incredible. So now when someone orders, it's actually printed. So amazing. But that was not the question. The question was,
What I say to the naysayers?
yes. So I have that side, but I also have a coaching side because since I started, I've been really interested in personal growth and interested in being the best version of myself every single year. So I now have a coaching program, and when people come in, they all have amazing dreams, but they always come with one thing, and that is self-doubt. So if you have that, that is a really good thing, because this is a really great carrot to make your business work and make it happen. And there is, the way I see life is that there are two buckets. So if you have a dream to start your own business and you put them in both buckets, this bucket is where you are worried about what people think. You have a lot of naysayers, and it's often the well-meaning people, our parents or our even partners and friends who are the ones who say that's crazy, that's silly and stupid, or whatever. Like, why would you take risks and all those kind of things? And then you just don't do anything, and you sit with this discomfort, having this amazing business dream or whatever dream it is, and you don't take any action. And then you have the same dream here, and then you have all these inspiring people around you and say, yes, why not? Why don't you? Life is short. Do it. Take action. All those kind of things. And they are the people you want to be around. So if you don't have that at home, I'm not saying to go home and get rid of your partner. I am saying surround yourself with people like you are tonight, with people who are small business owners, are all wanting to grow their businesses. Surround yourself with like-minded people and be around positive people, and also realize that life is short. So even if we do get to live a long life, we're going to get to the end of our life before we know it. And you want to look back and say, I did everything that I could, that I wanted to in my dream life, whatever that is for you. So that is my final advice. Do not hold back. Dream big. Take action every single day. So dream big, but start small and take action. If you take action every single day, eventually you will get there. Not always the same path as we planned, but definitely getting there. So dream big and enjoy the journey. I think that's what we really are here to do.
It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I mean, I think that we can all agree your road has been, it's been a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Right? It's on the straight path.
People pay money to go roller coasters for any of this.
And you've been really generous and candid about, the tough times too. And for a lot of us, we don't get to hear someone who reached the heights that you did, and also the low, be really transparent about that journey. And then, as we said, this is about your comeback, your second win, and even you talking about, well, if I did it once, I can do it again. Yeah. And the spirit that you've injected into your kids with Axel, amazing. So thank you for being so candid. And I think I'm gonna take your words, which is, what would you do if you couldn't fail? Yeah. I think that's what I'm going to leave with tonight. And everyone, can we put our hands together for Kristina Karlson?
Thank you.